Um, Reverend Lawson, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're honored to have your presence. I want to start with, what was your initial reaction yesterday when you heard the guilty verdict for Derek Chauvin 3 times over?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on. But then to your question, my first reaction was one of joy. Then I thought celebration. And then I thought, how many years have I seen this kind of thing come up, and white police officers either released as innocent or simply not convicted. So I've seen that often. For this to happen right now is somewhat similar to the crowd of people brought together by a labor union to Washington, D.C., where they could hear Dr. Martin Luther King's speech. And that speech described a dream about what he would like to see this nation become. Now we are beginning to see that dream come true. It has not yet been fulfilled, but at least we are seeing step by step, early steps toward that dream of justice and equality.
You alluded to the marching and the crowds and the people gathering and comparing it to back in the 60s in DC and other parts of the country as well. This past summer, you yourself joined thousands in downtown Houston at a march and rally for George Floyd. Did that moment and so many other moments similar to it make all the difference, Reverend Lawson?
I think so. I think so. And I think certainly we are now beginning to see that, that the power is not with the police or even with government. The power is with the people, with the voters, because that march gave a real message. And I think that in this case, you have a 17-year-old girl who has a camera on her phone and who videos that horrible moment and this kind of response, so that today, all of the world, there are people recognizing, if not celebrating, the guilty verdict of a white police officer who has brutalized a Black man, and he has been convicted 3 times. And now he has been imprisoned. That's very, very rare. And I think that we should have that we should have been encouraged. Not enough to celebrate a final victory, but at least enough to see that there is some possibility of liberty and justice for all.
Would you say that now comes a period of healing or a continued fight? Where do we go from here?
Well, by all means, we have to continue to fight, because what we have seen is simply one case in which there has been justice done. But we have to look at a system of racism that cripples the entire nation, and in fact some of the whole world. My hope is that there will now be some diligent battle toward justice, and this is at least a good beginning. but that's fundamentally what it is, a beginning.
Reverend Lawson, who do you think is responsible, or what do you think is responsible for the justice that was served to George Floyd and the Floyd family?
I think part of it has been that video. And as the entire nation looked at that video, they realized the brutalism of that single murder. But I think also there has been a slow evolution in this nation toward diversity. Every jury that I have seen has been 12 white males. And now you have a jury that includes females and minorities. And I think that jury, which was the one that convicted Derek Chauvin, was a very important step toward justice.
Where does faith, no matter the denomination, fall into all of this and the nation's healing?
This morning, the Attorney General announced the placing of the Department of Justice of Minnesota, that they were going to start an investigation into policing in the city of Minneapolis. Obviously, that is not going to heal very much, but it starts something, and that is my feeling, that we have seen a start.
I have to ask you now, as we look at where we're moving as a society, who is the next John Lewis? Who is the next Reverend Lowry? Who is the next Reverend Lawson in this fight for equality?
Well, frankly, my hope is that it moves way ahead of me. I was part of the 20th century. You now have a whole bunch of folks in the 21st century. My hope is that they will see this as something that is nonviolent fighting, and a fighting with diverse teams as over against violence and feelings of vindictiveness and revenge. My hope is that the new generation is going to be a generation that has not forgotten the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, who had a powerful philosophy that was picked up by Martin King, and we can do that, realizing that it is the people and the power of the vote changing the system, because we have a system of racism and of high and low and male and female and majority and minority. My hope is that little by little, those kinds of lines of division will change, and we can come closer and closer to a family kind of picture.
What about your own legacy, Reverend Lawson? What about your own legacy when it comes to race relations?
That is difficult to say. I am part of a trio called the Three Amigos. There is a Catholic archbishop, he's white. There is a Jewish rabbi, he's white. And there's me. Three different faiths, two and two different races. My hope is that we will move closer and closer toward that kind of diversity. And this time, include females and immigrants and minorities. If there is any legacy that I've got, it is that we shall make contributions through the vote and not contributions through protest.
My final question for you, from churches to schools to corporate America, what kind of conversations should be happening right now?
We should include, it seems to me, much of who our various components are. We must know something about those people who have made contributions and are still making contributions, and they are a kind of kaleidoscope of people. Once we come closer and closer to the family of people, in this case, I've spoken of a video taken by a young girl. We have to think of people like that young girl, along with oldsters like me. And I think that if there is any kind of real legacy that I would want to see, it is a legacy that moves from the old-fashioned white versus black, majority versus minority, rich as over against poor. My hope is that we will be more like a family.
Well, that's a beautiful sentiment and something I think will resonate with the people who see this. Reverend Lawson, I thank you so much for your time. It really has been special. Thank you so much for taking the time out of this beautiful afternoon just to speak with us and to enlighten our fellow Houstonians. Thank you so much. And thank you, Cheryl, as well.